Once upon a time, a girl named Holly moved to a town called HollyWould. She had many adventures, and soon she began to write about them on a Substack called HollyWould, because she would. Then, she wondered what her friends and acquaintances were up to and how they lived their lives in this strange land, so she started this very podcast in order to find out. And now, you can too. Welcome to HollyWould.
I just wanna get effed up and dance. This is our only chance. Happiness is fleeting. This feeling's way too good to last. Get effed up and dance. No future.
Welcome to HollyWould. I'm Holly, I'm your host, and I would. So today I'm flying solo, and I would like to tell the story of when I got dumped for an A-list celebrity. So as many of you probably know, I wrote a personal essay, and it was in the Huffington Post, and it was called, what was it called? Like, I got dumped for an A-list celebrity, and this is how I got revenge, or something like that. Something about getting revenge. I don't know if you know this, but when you write something for a publication, for a magazine or for a newspaper, they give it their own title. So Huffington Post is kind of notorious for like clickbaity titles. And I think that's part of the reason that the story went viral, because they're really good at their jobs. But the story it's a lot bigger and more nuanced than I was able to tell in 1,500 words. And there's a lot to unpack. So why don't we just get into it?
Do you want to talk, just curious, like before, just like the reply that you got from everybody, or the sort of the feedback, like there was like a lot of people responding.
Yes. So I was going to get into that. But yeah,
Okay.
Let's just get into it right now. So the morning when the Huffington Post essay came out, it was the first piece I've ever published as a writer. So already I was like scared and excited. Plus I'm like writing about something deeply personal, a story that involves somebody I used to go out with and my family and his new girlfriend, or this was 10, but it also happened 10 years ago. So I'm like, because so much time has passed, who cares? But, I was anxious. And I woke up in the morning and I opened my phone and I looked at the Huffington Post and there were already hundreds of comments. So I was like, whoa, this is exciting. And then, I opened it and started reading them. And I was like, oh my God, everybody hates me. Holy shit, I am going to have to hide for the next few weeks until this blows over. The comments were so brutal, like just vicious about like how I just want to be famous and how I'm a bad person and I'm a Nepo baby and like how cruel and crazy and evil it is to want to get revenge. Clearly, a lot of these people didn't read the story because that's not really what it's about. And then people started defending me in the comments, people that did read the story and people that did understand it. And that's, I think, what made it go viral. But I was surprised how triggering it is to people, just the idea of talking about wanting fame. I've noticed this on this podcast, too. Anytime I've spoken about, anytime I've said, oh, yes, I wanted to be famous, people just go insane with rage. So I want to get into all of that. But I'm going to tell you the backstory, which is I met this guy. This was 10 years ago, 11 maybe now when I met him. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to say anyone's name because it's classier and I don't want to get sued. And it's already all over the internet anyway, so you can Google it. But I met this guy and he was like super hot and we totally clicked and we started dating. I didn't know anything about love bombing at this time. Like, this wasn't a part of my vocabulary. I hadn't done that much work on myself. But, you know, it was a classic love bomb. He was just like, be with me all the time, like move in. I went to his house.
How'd you meet him?
And I met him at a party at a music studio. And this producer that I know introduced us. And it was like instant. It was like on. Like there was that feeling where I was just like, oh yeah, we're gonna know each other. And so we hung out that night. And then I went to his house where he was staying. He was just like temporarily in LA because he lived overseas. And I didn't leave. I just didn't leave for like weeks. And then he was leaving to go on tour. He was in a band, of course, because that's what I was into back then. And he surprised me by buying me a ticket to meet him overseas. So I was like so excited. And I myself was playing in a band on a major label. I was playing bass. I was singing backups, but it wasn't my band. I was just sort of like a hired gun. I wasn't like writing songs with them. I was just kind of a live member.
What did you play?
Bass. But I thought I was maybe going to become more of a member because I was there since the very beginning. So I thought, oh, eventually they'll just pick up on my brilliance and they'll want me to write with them. And, you know, eventually this will turn into something. And I was kind of just like coasting on this whole thing. The band I was in had a bit of a hiatus. So it was a good time for me to just like hop on a plane and go live somebody else's life. So I went overseas with this guy and he introduced me to his whole family. And I was like, this is it. I have arrived. This man loves me and he is going to take care of me. Now, the other part of the story is that I did not have my shit together. I did not have my shit together. I did not have a car at the time. I was like staying in my best friend's guest room. I wasn't like paying rent. I was just like staying there. I just was kind of like, thinking, oh, this band will work out. And if that doesn't work out, this guy will he'll save me. He was successful. He had his shit together. And I think, you know, on paper, maybe he thought like I kind of looked good. Like I'd modeled. I was still kind of modeling, but not really, and not really working. And I have a father who is very well known in a band called the Rembrandts, who did, they're famous for the Friends theme song. So I think there have been a lot of misconceptions about that in my life. People thinking I'm like, a rich kid and like a trust fund baby, which is sadly not the case at all. So I don't know. I don't know what this guy thought about my situation because we never talked about it. And I think I tried to just sort of like squeeze into his life. And he was like, you know, a gentleman and paid for shit. And
how did you guys connect? Like, what was it that, like, you know, you get in a relationship sometimes and you automatically like just sync and you talk all day and you're like, was it the talking? Was it the sex? Was it?
Well, there was definitely a lot of chemistry between us. Like physical chemistry, big time. I think we had good conversations. I can't really remember. I mean, I'm sure we did. He was smart. We both like to read. We talked a lot about like books and our families. And I think we did connect on a deeper level. And he's funny. Like we made each other laugh. There was more than a physical connection. We got along really well. So in the UK where we were, there's another aspect to this story that I didn't talk about in the Huffington Post because I really wanted to have a specific angle in the story that I wrote, but there's a bigger picture always with any story. And that is, when I met this guy, I was sober. I wasn't drinking. It had been like 8 months that I hadn't had a drink. And he thought that was really cool. And I just played it very casually. I was like, yeah, I'm just not drinking right now, whatever. I didn't like get into the reality behind my drug and alcohol abuse, I think because I myself hadn't fully admitted it to myself. So I was just like, yeah, I'm not drinking. So then I get to the UK and I'm like, I'm going to have a drink because I drink in the UK, obviously. I just don't drink in LA. It's fine. So I relapsed on this trip with him, but I didn't call it that. I just was like, yeah, no big deal. I drink here. And it escalated really fast. Suddenly I was just wasted and like doing lines and like really going for it, and back better than ever. So there were a lot of moving parts to this very fast relationship, and also to like my growing anxiety, because when we came back to LA, you know, reality was starting to sink in, and he was starting to catch on that I was like kind of a mess, like just this girl with like no money and maybe also like a drug and alcohol problem. And like, wait a minute, did I just like adopt a pet? I think is what he sort of was thinking. But, you know, at the same time, this is what happens when you move really, really fast with people. You don't know them. And there was stuff about him that I also didn't know, which, you know, it's kind of irrelevant to this story because we're talking about me and I'm not here to out anyone. But ultimately, we were back in LA and he's like, what are you doing? What's going on? I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to go on tour soon with my band, whatever. And then I'll probably move in with you was kind of my plan. And he was like, what's the deal with this band you're in? Like, are you getting paid? Like, what's your deal? What's your arrangement with them? And I was like, I don't know. And he was really like frustrated with me. Like, Holly, you need to grow up. I will mention I was 30 years old. I wasn't a kid. I was 30, but I really was like feral. Like I don't think I took myself that seriously. Everything I had ever done in my life, in my career, I just sort of like fell into, and it just kind of, I never like chased or pursued anything or decided. I never decided. I just sort of let things happen to me. And I would just sort of surround myself with people that were really successful and kind of just be like, oh, okay, this looks good. I'll do this now. I mean, I had my own band. I had, you know, stuff that I had done on my own, but I'd been dropped from a couple labels, and I think I was tired of trying to do things on my own. I don't know. I was tired. I wanted someone to take care of me. I'd been on my own my whole life since I was, 15. So anyway, he's like, you need to confront your band. You need to figure out what's going on. So I did. I called the leader of the band that I was in, and I was like, hey, so am I ever going to get paid? Like, I know we're about to go on tour. What, we haven't even talked about money, like, or if I'm in the band or what the deal is. And this is a whole other story that I won't go too far into, but he was like, how dare you make this about money? Like, this opportunity is, the best thing that you have going on in your life. Oh my God. And without me, you would be nothing. I mean, that's terrible. Actually literally said this. So I was shocked. I was heartbroken. I'd put, a year and a half of my time into this stupid band thinking that it was some sort of solution for me. And I was like, okay, well, if that's how you feel, then fuck you. And I quit. And I felt like for the first time in my life, I stood up for myself, and I was so happy. And then I went back to the guy I was dating, and I was like, yeah, so I told him what had happened. I told him what happened, and I thought he was going to be so proud of me. And he dumped me. He was like, he started crying, and he was like, I can't, what are you going to do now? And I was like, what do you mean, what am I going to do now? I don't know. I just quit my band. He's like, well, you think I'm just going to like take care of you? And I was like, maybe. And he was like, no, we need to have autonomy. I don't think I even knew what that word meant at the time. I was just like, what? Like, why don't you love me, basically? And he was like, no. You're not going to be happy making me sandwiches and tea and following me around, living my life. Like, I know enough about you to know that you want more for yourself. And I was like, no, I don't. I like making you sandwiches. I mean, I just really thought that he was what I wanted in that moment. So he was like, no, go. And I left. I left his house. We'd been together for 3 months, just like all the time. And I went back to my best friend Brooke's house where I was staying, and just shattered. I just had lost my band, my boyfriend, my ego was obliterated. I felt so stupid. I sort of saw myself through his eyes, and I heard him say, like, you need to grow the fuck up. And I felt so embarrassed, and I was like, oh, this is not good. Like, I really am an embarrassing person. So I cried and cried and cried. And I wrote this song called Speed of Light. And it was about my breakup with this guy. And it was like, I can't see the moon from my chair tonight. Like this dramatic breakup song. And, my first text from him to him was like, go look at the moon. So it was like very obviously about him. Couple days later, maybe a week later, after this whole awful day of mine, a friend approaches me who has mutual friends with him, and it's like, listen, I have to tell you something. He's already moved on. And I was like, what? It's been like a week. Like, how is this possible? She's like, it gets worse. I was like, she's like, this person is very, very famous. And I'm like, I can feel my stomach just twisting into knots. And I'm like, who is it? And she's like, well, and she said the person's name. And I was like, a friend? I got dumped for a friend? I mean, when you grow up with your dad as the face of the Friends theme song, and your whole life you live under the shadow of this fucking song and this show that I personally have nothing to do with, yet I can't escape it everywhere I go. Oh, you're the daughter of the Friends theme song. Oh, you're the Rembrandt's daughter. From the time I was in school till I moved to LA and started being in the music industry, everyone was like, oh, you're the Rembrandt's daughter. You're the Rembrandt's daughter. I mean, oh, Friends. Oh, wow. You must be sitting on a pile of cash from Friends. You must live in a castle. And now I got dumped for a friend. It just couldn't be any fucking weirder. So before you know it, it was everywhere. It was in every publication. You couldn't turn on the TV. I couldn't open my phone. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything without seeing like their new love splashed all over the pages of everything in the grocery store, like on the Us magazine and everywhere. It was everywhere. And I was just in the worst place because, I just had nothing and just felt so dumb. And then I was like, oh, well, of course, this is what he wants. Like a grown woman. Like I'm a dumb, broke kid and she is who she is. So I initially was crushed, and then I kind of got mad. Like, you know, this guy took me on a ride. He introduced me to his family. Like, I didn't make this up. I'm not crazy. Like,
I think that's a big part of it. Like when someone introduces you to their family, it's so intimate.
it feels like a big deal.
Especially when it's overseas.
Yeah.
You're being flown to meet someone's family. I could see how like you just automatically think, oh, this is it. Like this is special. This is different.
Yeah. And he just like wanted me by his side all the time. So I just really, I felt like an idiot. I felt like I'd kind of been played. You know, clearly, even in the moment, I took a lot of responsibility for how things went south. But still, like, it takes two. Like, I got misled or like tricked or something. So I was mad, but then I also was like heartbroken and thinking like, how do I get him back, or how do I get back at him? And so to Brooke, to the universe, to the fairies, to whoever the fuck might be listening, I just had this like download. I was standing in Brooke's kitchen. She will tell you, Brooke Julian will tell you that I was standing there and I was like, I will show him. He will see me. He will see my greatness. He missed it. And it's not his fault. I was hiding, but he will see that I am special and talented and I am good and my songs are good and I have a lot to offer this world, and I will show him, and he will have to see me, and he will hear my song, and he will see me. He will see me succeed. And I was like, I have to get famous now. And it was just this like moment of like this lightning strike ran through me, and I just was like, I will show him. So something shifted in me where I was like, it is time for me to grow up. It is time for me to get serious. I am going to get serious, and I'm going to be the decider, and I'm going to choose, and I'm going to work really hard, and I'm going to like get my shit together. So I like started writing songs every day, and I really, you know, I was on my own in every way, shape, and form, aside from like this wonderful support I had from friends. But I just, you know, I didn't have like a band to fall back on or a boyfriend or anything. I just was like, this is me now. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something with me, like with my name. And so I started writing songs and just doing whatever I could to like collaborate with people, and, you know, got a job in a restaurant that I hated, but just so I could have some money, just like was just doing what I could to take care of myself. A few months later, I got a phone call from a director that I knew, and he said, oh, I have a project, and I feel like you would be right for it. Your music would be right for it. You should write a song. So he sent me a pilot, and I read the script, and I was very moved by it, and I wrote a song, and I like made a really shitty demo and sent it back to the director, and then he was like, oh, the showrunner loves it. He wants to meet with you. And I was like, okay, cool. So I meet with the showrunner, and we have this like very magical meeting where he's like, oh, I love this song so much. Like it really moved me. I feel like I want to put it in the pilot. And if we go to series, you should write a song for every episode, and you should be in the show, and you should sing the song in the show, and then you should do like a produced version for the end title. And he just talked this whole big game, and I was like, this will never happen. And so I just thought, this is fun, but this will never happen. And then it fucking happened. It happened. Shout out Ben Watkins. He gave me the opportunity of a lifetime and just believed in me. And so I started writing songs for this show. Suddenly I was on an Amazon show, and I couldn't not think back to the day where I was like, I'm going to get famous. I'll show him. And again, I thought, well, this is probably the thing that's going to make me famous. So I was on a show. I was writing songs. I had to write 10 songs for that first season. And I pitched them that song I'd written, Speed of Light. And they loved it. They were like, this is the best song you've ever shown us. We're going to put it in the 3rd episode. And, it was all happening. But I I still was kind of hung up on this guy. Like, I want him to see that I did it. And, I'm like reading about his engagement and being like, it still hurt. So, we're almost, done with the first season. The premiere is coming up, and the producers asked me to sing the song at the premiere. And I was like, hell yeah. So I got to sing the song with a 25-person gospel choir. And on the night of the premiere, I dressed up and I was wearing white silk and I'm in the car and there's a red carpet and I get to the Ace Theater, which is like a big, 2,000 person seat theater downtown LA. It's a huge red carpet premiere. Like all these celebrities invited all their celebrities, it was a big deal. I'd never done a red carpet on my own before. And I get, pushed out and everyone's shouting my name. And I was sort of like, holy shit. Like I did like a year ago, this thing happened where I got dumped and I said, I'm going to get famous. And now I'm here. I was kind of thinking about that, like waving to the cameras and having this really surreal moment. And then I get to the end of the red carpet and sorry, is my hair weird?
Right here.
Cristiana, my producer, is telling me that my hair is weird. It looks, come on in and fix it. Okay. So I get to the end of the red carpet and I turn around because I think my friends are behind me. And lo and behold, it's the guy that dumped me and his famous girlfriend, who's a friend, right behind me. They were waiting for me to do my thing. They watched the whole thing. They watched me like waving. They watched the people screaming my name, the photographers. And I tried to make eye contact with him. He couldn't not have seen me. There's no possible way. There's no way. Also, what are the chances we would have been there at the same time? Why? And he wouldn't make eye contact with me. He wouldn't look at me. And that did not feel good. At this point, I was like, a year's passed. It's funny, whatever. It's funny. Like thinking we could be buds and laugh about old times. But no. Instead, he just pretended not to know me at my own fucking premiere. And then I had to get up in front of 2,000 people and him and his girlfriend and sing the song that I wrote about him. Like, what? The sim is broken, okay? Like, what are the fucking chances all of this could happen? It doesn't make sense, but it happened. This is so true. So that was not easy. Another thing I didn't say in the Huffington Post story is my performance was not that great. It was kind of amazing that he did get to see me on the red carpet doing my thing and just my, getting to sing my song and just being there and the whole experience. Like, it was cool. He saw it. My wish came true. I didn't have any like monitors, so I was just like singing. I could not hear a single thing. There's like 25 people singing behind me. I just couldn't hear anything. It was like a really bad setup. So I wish I could say like, and I gave the performance of my life, but I didn't. It was mediocre at best, maybe not even that good. I don't really know. The point is, my wish came true. I spoke this situation into existence. And then after the premiere, I felt really like really sad, like really hurt that he had ignored me. And then I went on like a 2-day bender because I had a drug problem at the time. I had a drug and alcohol problem. So that
was your drug and alcohol problem worse after you sort of, relapsed in overseas with him?
Yeah. Well, it didn't get better. It sort of for a year maybe. Because I was very determined to make it and to make something of my life and to like do something. So I had a sense of purpose that kept me straighter than I would have been otherwise. But I was out of control. Once I got on Hand of God and I started working a lot, I would go for like a week without drinking so that I could like focus and work and write songs and show up on set and be on set and look good for the cameras. And then the second, I would have a few days off, it would be like, I would just go crazy.
And you were making money, I imagine. Was that
Yes,
nice?
And I was making money. I was making good money for the first time, which was so nice. But I also, when you're a drug addict, you're not very responsible with money usually. And so I was very like, let's go to the chateau. I'll pay. I mean, yeah. Oh, I need to buy an 8-ball. I'll pay. So that's kind of where my head was at. So basically, my life continued on. I got to do another season of the show. I never spoke to this guy. I realized shortly after he wasn't like a great love of my life, but he definitely was a really important catalyst. And he held up a mirror. He held up a mirror that I did not like. I did not like seeing myself through his eyes. And because of that, I changed. I did. I grew up a lot from that experience, and it changed the way I looked at myself and the way I looked at my relationships. And it didn't fix everything, but it changed a lot. And I got to do another season of the show. And oh, wow, there's someone walking in now.
Okay. So, I'm going to obviously have to talk to the studio about this.
We're going to do this I'm going to say, we're having some weird issues. So we're going to do a to be continued part 2.
Yeah, but let me tell them so they don't walk in again.
Okay.
So.
But don't you think that's a good idea? And we'll just have to release 2 half episodes. Because we're both leaving town, so we have to do something. Okay, let's wrap this up. And Cristiana, you and I will figure out a game plan.
All right.
But we'll just roll with it. We'll figure it out. Okay, so we're having some very interesting things happen at the studio today. And we are going to wrap this episode up early and come back later with a part 2. To be continued.
I just wanna get effed up and dance.
Thanks for listening to the HollyWould podcast. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Holly M. Solem and at hollywould.substack.com. HollyWould.substack.com. The HollyWould podcast is filmed in Los Angeles, California, and produced by Cristiana Ladki-Williams. We'll be back next month with a brand new one for you. Please follow, like, download, share, and don't forget to leave a review.
Saying my